I'm not a game developer, but I'm gradually working toward being one small project at a time. I've been working through this 20 games challenge, where you have to recreate increasingly advanced games, starting with stuff like Pong or Flappy Bird, and building your way up to games like Super Monkey Ball or Portal. In the last devlog, I showed off the first 4 games I made for this project, which comprise Game 1 and Game 2. Now, I've completed the 3 Game 3s, the first of which is Space Invaders. I tried making pixel art for this game. No clue how I end up with some of these designs, but hey, they work. Threw together code that assigns what color the aliens are, what sprite they use, and how many points they're worth, which makes things simple when setting up a grid of them, but it probably would have made more sense to have the bonus alien as a separate scene. Add the player, give it movement, and now we've got Breakout without a ball or a grid of blocks. Add rockets and bombs, now we're getting somewhere. Make the alien spawn on a grid, make them drop the bombs. Maybe not so many bombs. Almost a game at this point. Just gotta make the aliens spawn in waves, make them move, and of course, add stuff like lives, game over, pause screen, etc. I added screen shake, learned how to use noise in the process, but it would be inconsistent with its strength for reasons I fix later. After starting the next Game 3, Frogger. Frogger took forever to make, in part due to holidays and whatnot. Trying to understand how to use certain features of tile maps also slowed things down a bit, as did figuring out tile-based movement, which is certainly a departure from the simple movement of the previous games. Now, it wouldn't be too bad if it weren't for having to reconcile it with the non-tile-based movement the moving logs and turtles cause. I didn't have to make the frog resnap to the grid, or move locally to the thing it's riding when moving left or right, but I thought it would be ideal to do that, and so I did. Although I still use some Kenny art, I feel like the art I did make was pretty decent. Just look at that log. There's a single spawner for the road obstacles, and one for the water. Handling it in this way makes it harder to fine-tune individual rows, but it helps in other aspects, such as making it easier to scale difficulty. Just need to make the car spawner spawn cars more frequently, instead of making 5 separate single-row spawners scale their speeds, for example. What percentage of logs are actually crocodiles, how often the turtles dive, and the existence of the snake also are affected by what level it is. In regards to the titular frogs themselves, I tried using some kind of state machine type thing to handle their logic. Frogs are either active, in which you are able to move them, moving, or inactive, which would be at the end of the level, sitting on what is supposedly a lily pad, or when they're just spawning in. Yet one more thing this project has taught me. After finishing Frogger, I wanted to see if I could slap together a fusion of Breakout and Space Invaders. It wasn't too difficult, and helped me figure out how to fix a bug in Breakout, in fact. I made this hybrid an unlockable extra game, available only if certain high scores are met. It made for an interesting diversion before starting the last game of the current set, River Raid. After making a jet that can move left and right, I was faced with an interesting challenge. How to make the procedural generation of the levels. Ended up breaking each level into chunks, alternating between sections with consistent widths and sections that connect those. When generating a level, the game will loop between the chunks and set the shape of the polygons that make up the riverbank, placing the lowest points at the highest points of the previous chunk. Starting at level 3, a median will also have its shape set if the width of the chunk is sufficient. Gotta admit, I'm kind of proud of the fact I was able to figure out that whole system. I think it shows I'm kinda actually learning. I said so anything in the group moves with level would move downward at a rate affected by the player's input. Although with the exception of bullets, everything that would need to move down with the levels would be a child of the levels anyway, and move with them by default. Speaking of bullets, there's a bridge that triggers the spawning of the next level when destroyed. There's fuel tanks that can keep you from getting an instant game over if you don't blow them up. And there's a few types of enemies you can destroy as well. I'd advise against crashing into them. I haven't looked into particle effects as much as I probably should have, but I think I've at least got a good grasp on one specific effect. Also, I made all the sprites this time. I even attempted making music. All in all, it was honestly satisfying making this game. While there's still much and more to learn, I feel I'm at least making good progress nevertheless. The next few games seem reasonable enough, though certain details might be tricky. I didn't plan this project around supporting multiplayer, for example. It wouldn't hurt to add an options menu to the project as well, maybe with audio settings or rebindable controls. Beyond this challenge though, I think I'm in a better position to attempt game jams than I was when I made this thing. So maybe I'll give one a shot soon? We'll just have to see. Check out the project if you want and maybe leave feedback. I'd appreciate it. Till next time.